There was a man.
He went to San Francisco by himself when he was young. He was imprisoned 3 times, had 4 wives in different periods, became a hero 5 times, and won court cases 6 times. He had 8 sons, more than 40 grandsons and granddaughters. The man settled down in North America and lived up to 100 years old before he passed away peacefully, surrounded by his extended family and offsprings. Please welcome the 8 young Chinese Americans who will tell this heroic tale.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the TangMen audio novel broadcast. My name is Andrew Zong. I'm 15 years old and I'm from Connecticut. Now, let's enjoy the story together. On the construction site, the tents where the Chinese workers lived were brightly lit because of Chinese New Year. On the night of New Year's Eve, Gunlong and Gunwang took Brandon to the tent on the railway construction site. Since they could not return to their hometown to reunite with their families, the 3 brothers had a New Year's Eve dinner that had been passed down for thousands of years with this group of workers in a foreign land. They put together a round wooden table in the open space between the tents and set up the dishes. This was the place to observe the New Year. Before dinner, Gun Mao led the performance of the ancient martial arts Township Nua Opera, which was a Chinese New Year sacrifice ceremony from the Tang Dynasty, which meant to exorcise ghosts and epidemics. Gun Mao asked Gun Wang to take 10 young Chinese workers to dress up as little epidemic ghosts, and then asked Brandon and 10 young and strong Chinese workers to dress up as beasts, which are beasts that eat ghosts. Gun Mao himself dressed up as Fang Xiang, who was a ghost catcher. Everyone fought around the open space and finally defeated all the little ghosts, and the exorcism ceremony was over. Zhou Banxian shouted, "The evildoers have been defeated, and we will be safe next year." The cheers attracted the white laborers in the nearby tents. Gunlong took the initiative to say hello and welcome them to come and play together. But the other party's response was that this affected their sleep and that they wanted to call the police. Gun Mao urged Gunlong to get the liquor quickly and did our best to reach out. It was the other party's decision if they didn't come. Besides, they also had their own festival, and they made noises all night at every turn, but the Chinese never made any complaints. Brandon said that they actually liked the noisy scenes the most. Broadway shows don't end until midnight, so no worries. Since Gun Mao cooked Chinese food for the engineer's family, Brandon has liked Gun Mao's cooking. To be precise, it is the taste of TangMen restaurant. Moreover, he also learned to use chopsticks to pick up vegetables and had the question, why do Chinese people use chopsticks instead of knives and forks? Gun Mao explained that there was a man named Da Yu who specialized in flood control. In order to save time, he used branches to get hot food. Later, people cut off the branches and used them again. They became chopsticks. When he was in his own home, Brandon didn't like to eat at the same table with his step-parents, but now he's willing to join in the fun with this group of strangers from a foreign land. Gun Mao said that in his hometown, at every Chinese New Year, the family eats around a round table. It is the family reunion. The workers who acted in Nua Opera all removed their costumes, took off their masks, sat down, and started eating New Year's Eve dinner. Seeing the Chinese workers dressed as little kids, gobbling food and drink, Zhou Banxian stopped them with chopsticks, as if they were starving to death. They had to eat a little bit slowly. It was best to have more food left. Why is that? So, if you eat half of it and leave half of it, just move your chopsticks to order it. It will bring good luck. Zhou Banxian told these young Chinese workers to eat radishes. The Cantonese call it vegetable head. If you eat it, you will get good luck too. He also let the three brothers eat water chestnuts, which means that all three brothers are here, they will be together, and they will be here every year in the future. Zhou Banxian took a bite of purslane by himself. This is my dish, the 5 elements dish. Mao said, Lao Zhou, who are you fooling? Isn't it amaranth? It is found everywhere on the side of the road in Guangdong, and it also grows in the fields of the United States. As soon as this dish hits your mouth, how can it become a 5-element dish? Zhou Banxiang said seriously, it is absolutely true that this dish has 5 colors. You see, its seeds are black, its leaves are green, its stems are red, its roots are white, and its flowers are yellow, right? Obviously, the 5 colors are all gathered on it. Doesn't this represent the 5 elements? It is a treasure. It has the effect of clearing heat and detoxification, and it is not afraid of the sun. Believe it or not, hang it on the wall. For 10 days, its roots are still alive, and it will live a long life. Just like us Chinese workers, we are here, squeezed and laughed at by others, but we are still alive. Come and come, we all eat dumplings. After a while, we bite this dumpling, and this year will become the next year. Everyone yelled, Come on, taste the dumplings. There will be no epidemics or disasters next year. Make a lot of money and go home early. Zhou Banxian suddenly asked, Where is the liquor in the well? Seeing Genlong retrieving it with a smile, he filled Zhou Banxian with a glass and asked tentatively, How is it? Is it the taste of our Tusu wine? Zhou Banxian praised, Well, yes, you can smell the Chinese herbal medicines of aconitome, guizhi, and atractolides. Gun Wang asked, Is it still medicinal wine? Genlong explained, Zhou Banxian was toying with you. Where did we get the wine? Tu means mowing the grass. In the 12th lunar month, I asked Gun Mao to cut a handful of rotting grass and threw it into the well behind the tent to soak. This was invented by Dr. Hua Tuo, who said that drinking this rotting grass water can ward off evil spirits and worm epidemics. However, this wine is most suitable for older people to drink. It benefits the body with yang and dispels the wind and cold. Gumao joked that it was mainly aphrodisiac, but it was a pity that Banxiang was so old that he hadn't even touched a woman, and he hadn't had the experience yet. Zhou Banxiang was not angry either. He took a sip and said, This is not to recharge your batteries first. Once you meet a good woman, you can use it. Gun Wang took this opportunity to give a speech. He said that he had noticed that Allen, an anti-Chinese white man in the West Coast, continued to promote the exclusion of Chinese with the California Workers' Party. The organization blamed the economic recession and high unemployment on cheap Chinese labor and called for legal means to exclude Chinese from the United States. Allen often organizes gatherings of tens of thousands of people to give speeches. His language is very provocative. He shouted the slogan, Chinese, get out, at public gatherings. He wanted to push the anti-China wave from California to the whole country. Therefore, Wang said, I must stand up speak out for the Chinese, and fight against it. The Chinese workers persuaded in good faith. Xiao Awang, let's just celebrate the new year. Only say good things and don't say angry words. We are too weak to fight them, so let's stay out of this. Awang said, it is because of your attitude that people bully us even more. The Chinese workers said, what should we do? You can speak English and you can fight him one-on-one, but we can't say a word, and we can't fight in groups with others. Even if we do it, we can't reason it out. Let's come out to make money. Let's make money in harmony. Anyway, our contract is about to expire, and we will be done when we get the pay and go home. We don't want to stay here. What's so good about it? It's so desolate, and there's no good food. It's better for our hometown. If the Qing government doesn't fight wars, doesn't corrupt, and treats the people better, we should have danced the Lion's Dance and had the Lantern Festival on the 15th of the first month tomorrow. Tuberculosis has spread in Africa as early as ancient times. No one knows why the source of this mysterious epidemic exists. Unfortunately, tuberculosis also followed in the footsteps of adventurers and immigrants to the New England region of the New World. This bacterial tuberculosis is called the White Plague. Before the Spring Festival, Gunlong asked the Williams for leave, and he had to go back to his hometown. His mother wrote to urge him to go because the matchmaker introduced someone and asked him to go back and get married. However, the lawyer had been suffering from a fever, pale-faced and sunken eyes, as he also had the highly contagious tuberculosis. He didn't even have the strength to beat it like thunder, so he started a hunger strike. He said that he would rather die than live in pain. Under these circumstances, Gunlong's words of resignation were taken back. It is not in line with the style of conduct to leave when the master is in most distress. He asked him to stay, and he had to find a way to give Williams confidence to live. In his hometown, Chinese medicine calls this disease Lao Bing, and 9 out of 10 tuberculosis lead to death. So he knows what it means for William to contract this disease. Gunlong went to the pharmacy to buy some white gauze, made them into thick layers of cloth in many ways, linked them with straps on both sides, and put them on himself to avoid being infected. He began to work hard in the kitchen and tried all the techniques in TangMen restaurants: stewing, roasting, boiling, steaming, frying, braising, and casserole to stimulate William's appetite. He is convinced that the good cooking can save Williams. Sure enough, Williams did not block the impact of the taste brought to him by Oriental food. Whenever a fragrance floated, he said, "What is that? I want to eat." The doctor has not yet prescribed effective treatment drugs for tuberculosis, but he recommended that the lawyer go to a warm place to enjoy the sun and sunbathe for recuperation, which may be beneficial to his physical and mental health. So, Williams took Gunlong to Florida. On the Southwest Peninsula, surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico, he bought a large estate with a white sandy beach in the front yard and 2 villas on 10 acres in the backyard. As the doctor instructed, he lives here to sunbathe. He wanted to enjoy Gunlong's delicious cooking food. Gunlong became excited when he saw the large orchard in the backyard. There were sparse oranges and clementines planted there, which were left by the Spanish owner. He asked the lawyer, "Would you like to eat the tribute oranges from my hometown?" "What do you mean?" asked the lawyer. Gunlong said, "The climate in this place in Florida is similar to that of my hometown. A kind of imperial orange produced by us has a thin skin and few kernels, crisp and sweet meat, and a strong body after eating. Because of its many benefits, it has been selected as a tribute for the emperor since the Tang dynasty. Actually, since the Northern Song dynasty, it has been selected as a tribute for the emperor. Maybe after you eat this orange, your illness will be alleviated. Williams was very happy with Gunlong's idea and asked, "When can I eat your imperial orange?" Gunlong said that it will be ready next summer. William asked, "Will I live to that time?" "Of course. Didn't the doctor let you bask in the sun? I will cook you Cantonese food, and I will use traditional Chinese medicine to help you bleed, and you will get better soon." Gunlong comforted Williams, but felt sorry for the prospective girl in his hometown. "I'm sorry, we have no fate to be together." William said, "It is great to be an emperor in your country." Allen worked with the medium and set off a wave of expulsion Chinese workers movement on the East Coast. During this period, the white laborers had been on strike and pressured the person in charge of the project to return the Chinese workers. The head of construction said that we had stopped recruiting new workers to come to the construction site, but those who have already come will have to fulfill the 3-year contract. The representative of the trade union asked the construction head to terminate the contract with the Chinese workers. The annoyed construction head told the truth. "I recruited these Chinese workers as a strategy to resist your strike." The white workers sent trade union representatives to negotiate with Zhou Banxiang and Geng Mao, saying that if you don't leave, you will have to work with us to ask for raises. Not only will we increase wages, but you will also have to increase wages. Geng Mao asked, "What should I do if the company refuses to increase my salary?" "Then continue the strike. Everyone will not work, and the company will have to be forced to give us a salary increase." But the Chinese workers were unwilling. They couldn't afford to delay. They just wanted to earn money and send it home. They didn't want to make any trouble. Originally, traveling across the ocean was to work hard to make money. If they want to make trouble, they could follow the Taiping, heavenly kingdom at home, which was more serious. On Saturday afternoon, the white laborers continued to strike, and the Chinese workers continued to work. Some white laborers came over to stop the Chinese workers from working. The Chinese workers held their shovels and did not let go. Both sides pushed and shoved, scolding each other with the dirtiest words and spitting on each other. It was the construction leader who came forward and temporarily stopped the conflict. Resting on Sundays, they heard that some new Chinese women from a nearby church are learning English and reading the Bible. Zhou Banxiang took several Chinese workers to pretend to learn English and enter the church. Zhou Banxiang took a pretty woman and showed her palmistry to the others. He said that she would meet an older fellow countryman in the near future. The fellow countryman had earned enough money to wait for her to marry her. The woman really believed him. In San Francisco, in order to save Juzi, Geng Mao visited church. At that time, he didn't have the mind to feel the atmosphere of the church. This time, he heard the believers singing hymns. His tears suddenly flowed uncontrollably as all the wrongs done to him before rushed out of his chest inexplicably. He and Juzi met and fell in love during the Lantern Festival and engaged privately. Juzi followed him to San Francisco, sacrificed herself for him, and became someone else's wife. Scenes of past experiences passed through his head, emptying him. Until the singing stopped and the priest was talking, he reluctantly wiped his nose and returned to reality. Looking sideways, Zhou Banxian had already met the woman eye to eye. On this day, there were other Chinese workers who met some women. Everyone had gained a lot. In the afternoon, everyone reluctantly left the church door and returned to the construction site tent, all looking forward to coming back next weekend. When the Chinese workers were walking and talking enthusiastically about the woman they liked, suddenly several white laborers blocked them in the front, some of them holding wooden sticks and some carrying knives. The Chinese workers were unprepared and were blinded all of a sudden. Zhou Banxian whispered that it was best to flee. But Gemao yelled, "Don't even run! Let's not cause trouble, but we are not afraid of trouble." Gemao calmly took out a pistol from his pocket, loaded the bullet, and fired 2 shots into the sky, frightening the white laborers who fled for their lives. Zhou Banxian asked, "How come you have a gun? When did you have a gun?" Gemao shrugged. "I made it myself and painted it black. Brandon came on the New Year's Eve and brought me 2 bullets. I always wanted to try it, but I didn't expect it to be used." "Can you shoot?" "No. That's why I aim at the sky." When Gemao and the others returned to their place of residence, they discovered that there was also a fierce battle here. The white workers ran to the Chinese workers' dormitory and attacked the Chinese workers because they refused to cooperate and go on strike together. Many Chinese workers were beaten badly. It was the construction leader who brought the police to stop the fight. The construction head told Gemao that the white laborers knew that several Chinese workers had gone to church, so they went there to block them. They didn't expect Gemao to shoot. The police confiscated Gemao's gun, saying that it was unsafe to put in the hands of the Chinese workers. Gemao did not resist. He liked the benefits of a gun in his hand. So that night, he made a new pistol. The railway engineering company sent someone to treat the wounds of the Chinese workers. Many Chinese workers wanted to return to San Francisco. They were worried that the white workers would attack them. The construction boss comforted them and said that the railway company resolutely resisted the Chinese exclusion requirements of the trade union and resolutely opposed any form of discrimination against foreign workers. Ask them to wait a while, and they will definitely take care of the matter. The trade union representatives of the white workers refused to give up and wrote to the company that if they did not fire the Chinese workers, they would never resume work. The chairman of the railway company replied, "Chinese workers, like people from other countries employed by the company, including Americans, Europeans, or Africans, enter the company to work under contracts. Board members will not discriminate against their employees based on nationality, color, or religion. If you want to leave, you can cancel the contract anytime." As a result, the white laborers left one after another, and the project came to a halt. Li Genmao is very familiar with this scene. When he and his elder brother were repairing a railway to San Francisco, it was because of a strike by white people that they had the opportunity to be recruited to the construction site. But he didn't want to go through the same process again. He was unwilling to be building railways all his life. When the contract expired, most of the Chinese returned to the West Coast, and the railway company bought them a one-way train ticket in accordance with the contract. A small number of Chinese stayed on the East Coast and used the wages they just received to rent houses and start low-cost laundries. Some went to Boston to the north because they had heard that there was a shoe factory recruiting workers, and there was also a shortage of workers and a telephone line laying site. Genmao took the salary and hesitated. Should he go home or stay? Gun Mao said that he wanted to go home. Gun Wang jumped up and immediately held down his second brother. You can't go, and neither will I. I want to go toe to toe with that Allen. He wanted the Chinese to leave, but I want to fight him. The Chinese must stay. Gun Wang asked the second brother, do you think I can support myself by running a newspaper? Gun Mao shook his head, not knowing. Gun Wang is at the second major turning point in his life. The first was whether he wanted to study in the United States. He chose to come. This time, whether he wanted to return home halfway, he chose not to leave. It turned out that the Qing government had approved that all small international students would be withdrawn. Chen Lanbin, then ambassador to the United States, had long advocated withdrawing students, because after young children in the United States arrived in the United States, they gradually became westernized in the process of learning English. Some converted to Christianity, some cut their braids, some even fell in love with white girls. How could they think about studying? This made the conservative Qing government very dissatisfied and criticized it and demanded that it be withdrawn. In addition, Li Hongzhang was very upset. His purpose was to send these students to the West Point Military Academy to help the Qing government train military talents. However, the US government only allowed Japanese people to attend military academies and shut out young children from the Qing dynasty. What's the point of the Qing government spending money to send these children to learn the Western languages? Withdraw them now! Gun Wang didn't want to go. He just had an urge to do some good for others and did not want to accept the Qing government's arrangements for him to return home. Gun Wang saw that the Qing government was unable to exert its power on the issue of Chinese exclusion, and the United States was a place that valued individual heroism. He had to rely on his own strength to improve the situation of the Chinese in the United States. He decided to be an anti-Chinese exclusion fighter. He wanted to fight Allen, and he planned to start a cultural debate with Allen openly in a gentlemanly way. He planned to seek some sponsorship to supplement the Meihua Times. This is the first newspaper for Chinese people. It not only expresses and carries his own thoughts, but also helps Chinese people understand American society. Gun Wang persuaded his brother that if he went back now, it would be a failure, and that he had to stay and impose Chinese exclusion with him. Gun Mao said that he didn't want to entangle in the rivalry between people. It didn't mean much. He just wanted to be a big bird spreading its wings and flying. He hated arguing, right and wrong, grudges and grievances in the world. So can the sky of your hometown make you a big bird? But if I stay, what can I do? Is it to continue being a laborer, starting a business, or open a TangMen restaurant? Gun Wang said, as long as you stay, brother, you can do whatever you want, and you will do something big. Just when Gun Mao didn't know what to do next, Zhou Banxian came to him. He did not return to the West Coast either. He inquired about Gun Mao's father, saying that there was a tea merchant in Boston who married a white man. He seemed to have met the mining boss and might be able to provide some clues. Gun Mao immediately decided to go to Boston with Zhou Banxian. On the way, Zhou Banxian's eyes lit up and revealed that Ying Ying, the Yangzhou woman who he met, had agreed to marry him. If the feng shui in Boston was good, he will take her there to live. Zhou Banxian was happy these days. No matter the weather, he would go to church on Sunday to formally pursue Ying Ying. Because Zhou Banxian looked at Ying Ying's face and figure and thought that she was destined to give birth to a boy, Zhou Banxian hoped that this woman, would help him to continue his inheritance. Ying Ying asked Ban Xian, "You really don't care about my previous experience?" Zhou Banxian replied smartly, "In the United States, heroes could be from everywhere. It is designed and destined that you and I will meet. It is the will of God, and everything else is secondary. As long as you are willing to live with me, although I am in my early 40s, I might be able to make it big." Ying Ying said, "Just because you are a descendant of Zhou Wenmang, if I marry you, I should be able to enjoy a good life." To say that Ying Ying is an unusual woman, she knows who Zhou Wenmang is. In fact, her surname is Ji, and her first name is Cheng. 2,000 years ago, Ying Ying and Zhou Banxian were one family. The Zhou tribe was originally a tribe in Baozhi, Shanxi province. Because they were attacked by nomadic tribes, they were moved to the plains to settle. After the leader of the Zhou tribe was killed by the Shang king of Yindu, his second son, Ji Chang, also known as Zhou Wenmang, succeeded him. Zhou Wenmang was a capable politician. He banned the people from drinking alcohol, forbade the nobles from hunting, and encouraged the people to raise cattle and sheep for food. Later, King Shang was afraid that Zhou Wenmang would rebel, so he imprisoned him for 7 years. During this period, Zhou Wenmang studied the books created by Fuxi's family, the Lianshan books written by Shenong's family, and the Tibetan books created by Xuanyuan's family, and transformed them into new books, deducing it into the 64 Guos and the 384 Yao. Later, with generations of Zhou Gong, Confucius, and others inferred and interpreted, the book Zhou Yi was formed and circulated to future generations. Later, when the Jin ruled the southern Song dynasty, Ji Yingying's ancestors fled south and settled in Yangzhou. Her ancestors have also relied on fortune telling for generations, but her family's fortune is very poor. She can calculate that she would live poor and drift with the current, but she cannot change her fate. Zhou Banxian and Ji Yingying, a pair of desperate people, actually met in a foreign land. Gemao said, "You two were from the same family originally, so of course you are a family now." Zhou Banxian and Gemao came to Boston by train from New York. After getting off the bus at the terminal, they walked along Beach Street and found that on the wall of a building there was a black bust of an old man with a beard and slightly tilted his head. The old man stared at them, and they didn't know who the old man was or why he was here. They soon came to the lively Washington Street. There are 2 theaters on the street. One is called the Low Globe Theater. Not far away is the Unique Theater. Further on, there is a 5-story building with a unique architecture. It is actually a small hotel. Gemao found that this small building has 3 4-story golden tail bay windows, exquisite cast iron products, and a cast iron decorative board. Gemao liked the location of the Globe Theater and said, "It would be great if there was a TangMen restaurant in this place." Zhou Banxian pointed to the Unique Theater and said, "The feng shui here is good. If you open a grocery store, the business will definitely prosper." Gemao said, "Then you can buy it." Zhou Banxian responded, "You think I dare not?" Gemao and Zhou Banxian came to Beach Street. In the autumn of 1848, a theater museum was opened here. In 1854, on Washington Street, the Boston Theater was built, which was the Lowell's Globe Theater, and the Unique Theater, which was later the Stewart Theater. Gamal was stunned by the luxurious scene in front of him. He said that one day he would also build TangMen restaurant in such a big theater. They could only look, but they couldn't go in. It was dark, and the two walked back to the South Railway station. Gamal looked around. It was a dead end, and said, "Ban Xian, how about the feng shui here?" Zhou took out the copper coins to calculate and said, "Ping An, just set up a tent here. If you get up tomorrow morning and no one drives us away, then my word is good." The next day, the two of them were awakened by the warm sun. Zhou Banxian said that this is indeed a safe place. Geng Mao said, "Let's call it Ping An Alley." Soon, the Chinese workers who were hired by the shoe factory, as well as those recruited by the telephone company, came here to set up tents to rest, and the place became lively. Zhou discussed with the Chinese workers whether to rent a shop together and open a grocery store. He wanted to pick up Ying Ying as soon as possible and settle down. Geng Mao suggested that everyone should go to the shoe factory to work for a while, save some money, find out the situation of the local shop, and then discuss the next step of buying a shop. Geng Mao and Zhou Banxian finally found the Boston tea merchant, Ashou. Ashou is a middle-aged man. He came to Boston to work in the tea business in 1850. He married a white girl who gave birth to a pair of mixed-race children. Boss Ashou warmly received Geng Mao and Zhou Banxian. He said that many years ago, he had met the boss, who, after graduating from Harvard University, went to California to mine gold. He also heard him say that he had hired a Chinese named Adong, who was very capable, but Ashou had never met that Chinese, and later he never saw that boss again. Geng Mao wrote down the English name of the mining boss so that he could locate the whereabouts of this person. Zhou Banxian signed a 3-year contract with the shoe factory with a monthly salary of $23 for the first year and $26 for the next 2 years. He will take care of his own clothing and food, and accommodation expenses will be deducted from his salary. The Chinese workers learned every step of shoemaking in less than a few days, producing an average of 120 boxes of shoes per week, 10 more boxes than the union workers, reducing the cost of shoe factory owners by more than $400 per week. Geng Mao did not sign the contract. On the grounds of looking for his father, he insisted on doing only odd jobs. After the arrangements were made, Geng Mao took advantage of the weekend to rush back to the Connecticut countryside. He wanted to clean the manor for Oliver and leave a letter to inform him of his whereabouts. While Geng Mao was cleaning the house, Brandon came back with a newspaper. He anxiously told Geng Mao that there had been a murder in Chinatown, and the leader of the axe gang was killed at home. The newspaper said that the leader, who was originally a prisoner of the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, was exchanged by the Qing government as a laborer. When he was about to arrive in China, he jumped on the train and escaped. Later, he arrived in Chinatown on the East Coast, ran a casino, and opened a brothel. He built a criminal gang and has been arrested several times by the police. The police are currently investigating the cause of death in the murderer. Both Geng Mao and Brandon guessed that Akui did it. Are they worried about Juzi? At this moment, Oliver suddenly came in with a Navy uniform. Brandon asked, "Aren't you the captain? How did you become a soldier?" Oliver was particularly relieved to see that both his son and Geng Mao were there. He patted his chest and said, "From now on, I am the Navy captain of the Arctic expedition." It turned out that an Arctic expedition team of the US Navy encountered a storm, and the bottom of the ship leaked. They were rescued by Oliver, who was drifting in the northern hemisphere, and sent them back to the Navy headquarters. A media personality decided to sponsor the Navy and continue to send an expedition to the Arctic. The Navy vigorously lobbied Oliver to enlist in the Army and serve as the captain of the expedition. Oliver saw from the media that the wave of Chinese exclusion on the East Coast was fierce, so he had thought of Guimau. He applied to the Navy and needed a resourceful, orderly man who could draw firewood and light a fire, walk a long distance, cook a meal, and be resourceful. He recommended Guimau. Oliver asked his son if he would like to go on an expedition to the Arctic together. Brandon said that he prefers to soak in a Broadway theater and enjoy the joy that music brings him. Now that the captain has recommended him, Guimau is grateful. It is just cooking meals, and he certainly can do it. When Oliver talked about the Arctic, exploring and going out to sea, the adventurous gene in the bones of the old Li family were aroused. Guimau grinned. I'll go. It's just that Juzi was forgotten. He didn't have the fate to treat her and live with her, and he couldn't return her freedom to her. This tore Guimau's heart apart, as he had to temporarily forget about her and move forward alone. If one person made it big, it means that both of them had succeeded. Although he didn't know what was waiting for him, he could get compensation from the Navy with double reward and do things that he had never experienced in his life. This made Li Guimau's blood boil. Is this little fish really going to become a big bird rising from the sky? Thank you all for listening.
Dad left home, sadly going to build the railways. Mom missed him day and